Hello, everyone. I think it's appropriate that I had to go and get some Zydeco music for this event. Let me close one thing here. That'll greatly minimize the noise. So, this is supposed to be a celebration of a dear friend, of a teacher, a peer, a colleague, but most importantly, an absolute dear friend to each and every one of us. I know it hasn't been easy for anyone. I'm assuming you guys can hear me. Can somebody say in the comments that they can hear me fine? You guys can hear me? Everything good? Anyone? I see we have 38 people here. We have Joshua's here. Good. Thank you, Dean. Lots of people here to share with some of the memories. Now, the thing I'm going to be doing, so you all know, is I got asked by a lot of people to do a video about Wayne and share some of the stories with Wayne, as I've known him for the bulk of my life. And I didn't think that would really do a man of this stature justice. I think each and every one of us that's here right now, we're up to 44 people in the room. I think Wayne has touched each and every one of us in different ways. And I think it'd be more appropriate as if we could share those stories with each other. It's a way to working through it, way of getting by, sharing our stories, sharing our memories. I'd like to say, people that know me, that follow me on my channel, they know that I'm usually overly prepared. I have piles of notes, and I have all sorts of things ready to go. But honestly, I've struggled with this since Sunday, since I first heard the news. I didn't sleep well, and I've been pretty much in a haze every day since then. He's an absolutely dear friend to me. He would have turned 70 this year in August. But my intention for everyone is that I want to share the link. This is not for me to share just my stories. How do I do that? You guys can see me here still. Now, I believe what I've put in the chat there, if you copy and paste that, that'll actually bring you directly into the chat, and then we could share the stories together. I don't want this to be just me. I want it to be anybody that wants to share a story, a memory, anything. It's the same link that you guys followed to get here, but that one that I send you will actually bring you backstage here on my computer, and I'll be able to add you to the chat. Now, I thought maybe I should start with some of the stories and the ways that Wayne and I have had a relationship for many, many years. I, like many of you guys, and I know the bulk of the people that are going to be attending are fish people, hardcore fish people, the crazy fish people, just like Wayne. But we might have some of his students who are probably also fish people. But Wayne had many other passions. He had his passions with his music. He had his passion with his birds, and he had passion with reptiles. All sorts of forms of nature. So we might have all sorts of those people might be joining our feed as well tonight, and I welcome to everyone. But I've always had this passion for knowledge, for nature. And people that follow my channel know that it started out primarily fish, because that's what most people know me for, fish. But I've also branched out into arachnids and other inverts and insects and different types of things and all sorts of stuff. And it's people like Wayne that really pushed that passion. Now, as I say, I was very interested in a lot of this stuff at a very, very young age, but most people didn't really know to what extent. I would be the perfect candidate for what children are diagnosed with today, being ADHD. I would probably be the poster child for that as a kid. I was going all the time. I started playing music at a very young age. I was a drummer, no surprise, hyperactive all the time, doing stuff. But fish started with me as a calming effect. Steve, I'm in Canada. I'm in Manitoba, Canada, right above North Dakota. And I just didn't go and do that enjoy the fish tank like most people do. I had to learn more and more and more. I would get books, and I would pour through books at a rate that was borders insanity. I was always learning and learning more. And what I started doing is my passion really was in replicating or breeding tropical fish and finding whatever. And as you guys that follow me know, I've referred to it many times. I refer to keeping tropical fish and breeding tropical fish as putting together the pieces of the puzzle. I see Kevin, you're trying to join, but it says your devices are not connected. I should see you. Now, it's possible you do not have a camera. I'm not certain. But if you maybe you can post something in the chat, and it'll let me know. Otherwise, it'll just be a blank screen when I add you. Now, I met Wayne Leibel long before the internet, long before any of the big books that were out, by literally writing him a letter. I got his contact through somebody else that I knew that I corresponded with, and they said, this guy will be able to help you. And basically what I was doing is the progressions of where I was in my fishes, I was learning to do more and more things. And if a fish should pass, that fish went in the freezer, and then it would eventually end up on my dissection table. And I would always try to find more and more and more things to learn about. And that is really how I met Wayne. Wayne would spend hours upon hours on the phone with me while I would be in my parents' basement as a young teen, and he'd be at school. He would make time for me if he wasn't teaching, or he would make time for me personally while he was at home in the evening. And he never at once, ever rushed me. He never said no, ever to me. He encouraged every facet of that. He encouraged me. He would sit there for hours as I would pour through these different dissections over the phone with no visuals to go by. I would have to visually describe what I was looking at without the scientific background to an academic, and he would guide me through what I was looking for. And he always emblazed that passion in me, and I will always forever be thankful for that, my friend. I'm going to lose my train of thought. I see there's many people here. I welcome absolutely everyone. We're up to 86 people in the house. I see a lot of very important names here. Kevin, I see you're still here. Let's see if we can try and add you. It says your guest will need to connect their mic cam before you can add them to the stream. So, Kevin, I will need to have you in one way or another. But if you could check, Kevin, see if you have a camera and a microphone. Otherwise, adding you to the stream, you won't be able to participate. I encourage anybody that wants to please go ahead and post any of your memories. Some of you may feel uncomfortable about sharing maybe in the video format like we are doing here, but you may feel you might have some sort of thing in ways that Wayne touched you in one way that might be special that you wish to share with everybody here. Feel free to type it in the comments there for everyone to see. This video is not being monetized in any way. I do not want it to be monetized. I'm just simply using it on my platform as a way that a lot of people can generate and work together. I want this to be up for as long as it wants to be up. All the comments will stay there. Anything that anybody wants to add, I apologize. You can't add pictures to the comment section. But if you do want to post pictures of some of your treasured memories with Wayne, I encourage you. Wayne did not have any direct family. And he had some cousins, but that was part of the challenge in trying to locate next of kin when this tragic event happened. It took a bit of time for us to find anybody. But because he doesn't have anybody direct, there's a hope that his Facebook page will just be left alone. So if by all means, share your stories on his page, share your pictures with him on the page, and that way everybody can benefit from it. Everybody can see it. But I see we have several people here trying to add that want to share. That's exactly the point of this. So if you didn't hear me before, I've shared the link in the chat, and I will share it occasionally. But let's bring on some other dear friends of Wayne and let them share their sides. So we'll welcome to the screen. This is Dean. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I guess we're a little bit.
How about
there? You can see us a little better. Thank you.
I can't hear you.
All right. Chris claims the mic is on.
There we go. I can hear you fine. That was totally on my end because all I had to hear before was me.
Okay,
now,
so
you and I, we've known each other for a long time. This goes back to probably, I guess, I'm going to say the late 80s, early 90s was when the infancy of the Akara started, I'm believing, correct?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So I really started to get into the fish hobby in the 80s. Towards the late 80s, I was pretty heavily into it, and I had moved up to Minnesota at that point in time, so I wasn't too far away from you up there in Canada. And I went to my first ACA convention in 1990 in Chicago, and it completely blew me away. It was the Chicago Cichlid Association and all of the fabulous speakers and nobody more than Wayne, right? He was just such a wonderful presence there and so welcoming. And, the fact it was, my first ACA convention and just really getting into the hobby in a big way, just completely welcomed me in. And that was him. That was his, he was so basic and down to earth and kind and gentle to everybody. And that was, besides his just absolutely fantastic knowledge and his willingness to share it and to pull people in. And so I met him there in 1990, and he really encouraged me to follow those kind of dreams. And it was it was the 93 ACA convention that we in Minnesota hosted.
Yes.
Where I started up the ACARA, the South American Cichlid Study Group. One of the things that Wayne had really influenced me in was, his Geophagus equidens study group, right? Those sifters, those were just such wonderful journals and brought just a completely different angle. But then I think of all the things, his editing in the Bunt Barsh and he really just brought a whole side of the hobby alive. I
remember 93, that particular ACA. I was there. It wasn't my first one. I think it was about my third ACA. But I remember that ACA in particular because for somebody that's a lover, passionate like Wayne is and yourself on New World cichlids, but more particularly South American New World, that was absolutely the treasure trove because that's when they really started opening up the Xingu and the Tonkatins. That's when all those weird pikes started coming out, all those undescribed things, all those weird GFA guys. Like it was an absolute treasure trove of stuff. I still remember vividly, you had it. It was in a display tank, that beautiful orange Crenocycla, was it Xingu 3 or Xingu 1 or whatever it is now? I don't know. But I still remember that fish vividly. And I think it was only within only months of that is when he was the editor at the Bunch Barsh of the ACA at the time, and he did the all pike issue, all the Geophagus issue. He's just constantly hammering all the African cichlid people with all this stuff about New World cichlids. But he always found a balance for everybody. Yeah, and like as you say, this is exactly what I want. There's about 6 or 7 people waiting. I want everybody to share their stories. But I've been asked by people have asked me for quotes and ideas and what do I want to say, and you got your Instagram posts and your Facebook posts, and then people ask you comment on that, and I feel like I'm just repeating the same stuff, and that's what it's going to be. I had a dear friend unrelated to this that passed away, and to me, his name was Hugh, and to me, Hugh was the guy that just showed up randomly. He was an immigrant from Trinidad. He lived in Canada for his whole life, never lost the accent, and he was a chef, and he would show up randomly, and he would have a drink. And he would just chat for an hour, and then he'd disappear. And I remember going to his funeral. I remember when he passed suddenly, his daughter said, I need you to help me with Dad's stuff, and I helped him, did all that stuff. And he was one of those real dear friends like Wayne that you'd do anything for. And I did all that stuff. She says, well, you'll say something at the wedding, or at the funeral, won't you? And I said, sure. I go to the funeral. I'm considered family. Now, they were Trinidad, so their family was black. And I was one of the only white people at the very, very front row sitting with the family and stuff. But at this funeral, There was over 700 people came for this. It was standing room only. And Hugh had that ability, like Wayne, to just embrace everybody. And I went to go and talk, and I went to go up, and every time I tried, somebody else would go up and share a story. And that is really the inspiration of why I wanted to do this tonight. The pandemic's been hard on everybody. I went through the many, many phases of emotions, as I'm sure most of us have. I went through that, deep sadness, everybody leave me alone. I just want to be myself, and I want to go through my thoughts and process this. And then yesterday I went through insane anger. And the insane anger is the fact that, we're all in this pandemic and we're all in isolation, but yet most of us are also gone into even further isolation into ourselves or just our immediate family unit, because we have all these abilities. We have this technology. We have Zoom. We have all these FaceTimes and stuff. We can do everything from our phones. And if anything comes out of this besides the sharing of stories of Wayne, it's reach out to the people that you love. Reach out to those friends that you haven't seen at a convention for a couple of years. Tomorrow is never guaranteed.
Well, and I would say Wayne brings people together. Wayne is actually the reason that I'm married to Cynthia Teague here. She was at the 1990 ACA convention, but we didn't see each other there. We didn't connect. But it was only because I stuck with it and started up the South American Cichlid Study Group that we met in Minneapolis at the 93 ACA convention, because I was organizing things, she actually noticed me at this one as opposed to at the last one where she didn't. So.
I have a little story about Wayne from the 1990 convention, or a vignette perhaps. That was my first ACA convention, my first really big fish thing. And the little tour for that ACA was going to the Shed Aquarium. And there was some special talk, but it had a limited attendance. And we got there a wonderful time. And like Dean said, he was such a welcoming guy to someone who was fairly new in the hobby at the time. And he just really, really made it all so much fun.
Yeah, he brings everything right down to earth. He's that father figure that he encourages everybody. He's an academic, but he never flaunts it. He just wants to be there with the hobbyist. He was a hobbyist first, and he'll always be a hobbyist. Well, thank you very much, guys, for sharing.
Thank you for doing this, Chris. Take care.
I love doing it, and I'm glad to see you guys are doing well. Thank you. All right, let's bring up some more people here. Kevin.
Hey, Chris.
There he is.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
All right. Hallelujah. Sweet Jesus, Mary, and Joseph.
How you doing, Kevin?
I got no idea. Dory Carlo is on the other thing. I keep texting him, and he's in South Carolina. He's supposed to come up to Jersey, but I think after I text him, he ain't going to come up to Jersey. I got a couple of stories about Wayne. First story I'd like to share with everybody, and thank you again for doing this, Chris, is in 1977 was the first time I met Wayne at the Elm City Aquarium Society show. And there was a Geophagus therai, which was actually the name before Actharictes heckelei, there that won Best of Show. And for years, Wayne would always bring up, boy, that Geophagus of yours was great. That was a fantastic fish. I always remember that, Kevin. And I just look at him. And to this day, I hope he hears me in heaven. Wayne, that wasn't my fish. I just yesed you to death. Another great story we have is Wayne. We went to the 1982 ACA convention in Milwaukee in a Winnebago.
I've heard this. I've heard about this one.
Well, you haven't really heard anything till you hear this. Now, there was 13 of us in there. All right. Chuck Davis and Brian Kelly together had to sit to the left and right. Otherwise, the Winnebago would tip over. That's the first time I really got to talk to Wayne a little bit. He had just spawned Actharictes heckelei, and he brought the eggs with him. All right, I swear to God, he brought the eggs with him, and I kept saying,
"That's not a fish anybody breeds."
Well, it's true, but I said, "What kind of effing nut is this? He's got eggs in here. What is he doing?" And the worst part about the Winnebago trip, and there's several bad parts about it, is if George Fear is on, George drove a Winnebago faster than the speed of light. Never saw anybody drive a Winnebago. If you ever go 85 miles in a Winnebago, you see your whole life flash before you. All right. Not only your life, your mother's life, your grandmother's life, your grandfather's life. All right. So anyway, we pull into we after this harrowing trip, we pull into Chicago to go eat. All right. And we're in an African American community, as we're the only white people, and they see 13 of us come out of a Winnebago. It kind of scared people in the neighborhood more than us being a little out of place. But that was one great time we had with Wayne, and another time that my father, Charles Lewis Davis, had run the first trips out to. I think they were going to Peru, and I think George Fear took it over after that. So Wayne went. George, I believe George Fair was there. John O'Malley, may he rest in peace, and also Chuck. And John was always a prankster. John and Wayne were very, very close. And in fact, in my talking about Wayne's passing, I had mentioned the fact that John is out probably in heaven right now, talking to him and talking about fish. But anyway, they were in a canoe or a boat, and they were paddling somewhere in a river, and there were baby caiman, and John picked up the baby caiman, and the caiman started to squeak, make a noise calling for its mother. Yeah. So Wayne soiled himself because he got so scared that caiman was going to come there. Yeah. So what John did, or what Chuck did, I don't remember. One of them did is they took a log and they pushed it towards him. And when he looked to his right, they said he was looking straight ahead. They said, "Wayne, watch out for your right." And they hit the log, and it went up. Wayne almost fell out of the boat. But in reality, he was, as everybody says, he was an extremely modest person who really didn't care for his title. He really didn't. He was the kind of guy you sat down and talked to about other things, not only fish, but he was also into turtles and stuff like that. So we always had something else in common with reptiles. Yeah. But he was just you ask him for anything, he would. My God, it was 5 minutes later, I got something. And he always looked at you and always. And I always say this about Dr. Leibel too: the smartest people in the world are the people that never stop asking questions. And Wayne was one of those people. Yeah. But he will sadly be missed. He was a fantastic person more than anything else, and I'll miss him greatly. And one of the sad things about this whole thing is I had just picked up this giant pair of Aquidens that I don't know what the hell they are, and I was going to send him a picture, and then he passed, and I was like, oh my God. Well, I'll just send it to Leibel. I'll keep him awake. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Kevin. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye now.
Well, this is wonderful. I've noticed that a lot of people are trying to come in. I've noticed that because if you guys keep hearing this beeping and stuff, there's kind of group chats and stuff that are going on in behind the scenes. If anyone's having difficulty trying to figure out the platform, I apologize. Not everybody's fluent with YouTube. But to be able to access the chat, to be able to leave a comment in the chat, or to be able to come on and do part of the video stream, you just have to set up an account with YouTube. You don't have to have a YouTube channel per se and upload videos. You just have to set up an actual account. And when you set up an account, then you can come and be a part of everything here. But let's bring on another one of friends of somebody else from Wayne here. Steve, you still there? Steve? Steve has not had any video yet. He only had his microphone. Take him off for now. Somebody else. The legend himself, Mr. Mo. How we doing, Mo? Can't hear you, Mo.
No problem. Yeah, I got it.
There you go.
You think after all this time in lockdown, I'd figure out the unmute button, right?
I do stuff like that all the time.
Yeah.
How you holding up, my friend?
Oh, good. Excellent, as a matter of fact. Obviously, it was quite a shock to hear that Wayne had passed. I don't know him as personally as a lot of the guys in Jersey and everybody else did, but he was one of those guys where maybe you wouldn't see him for a couple of years or a year go by, and you'd see him at a convention or whatever, and you talk to him just like nothing ever was wrong, like he was always there, Yeah. And The one thing that has always stuck with me, and really was I would say life-changing in respect to my hobby, was Wayne's comment at a one of his presentations, and he made a comment, and I'm paraphrasing here, that the people who are behind the scenes, the scientists and all the professors and everything that are looking at fish, aren't really the people that are providing the most information about the fish. That it's the hobbyists that actually, set up the tanks and spend more time observing their behavior and everything else that really makes a difference. And when I started thinking about that line, I started to think about my animals as more sentient, like they know what's going on. It sounds crazy. I apologize, but I walk down into my fish room and I look at my tanks and I see a fish that's in a 100-gallon tank, and then I think to myself, that poor son of a bitch. All he sees is the other tanks. That's it. So it makes you want to interact and have some participation in their life in their tank, for what it's worth,
Yeah.
But he was just a great guy, real down to earth, and he was one of those guys. The one thing I miss about him the most is his post on Facebook. He always found the coolest biology posts with either reptiles or
Yes.
animals, and I've always looked forward to seeing them to share and read. So
yeah, that's true. He's been sharing all sorts of stuff. It'd be flowers, birds, turtles, reptiles, whatever it is, and he's constant. He's very active on social media, and that's honestly, truth be told, that's where the confusion kind of came in. Is when I got notification, it started out where I got a couple of texts from two different people inquiring whether or not I'd heard that he'd passed, more of a rumor type thing. And then you go on his social media, because that was honestly the easiest way to communicate with him. And he'd only been active only 16 hours earlier. So, it's kind of, don't know. But, several of us messaged him, didn't get a reply back. And then we kind of looked into it a little bit further, and then the details started to unfold. So thank you very much for sharing with us, Mo.
My pleasure, bud. Thanks again, Biggs.
Cheers. So there's lots of people. Again, anybody that wants to chime in, by all means, just follow the link. I'll bring on another guest right away, and then we can just continue. We can go along as far as we want to go, as much as we want to talk. This is all healing for all of us. So let's bring in another guest here. Hello, Shirley.
Hello.
Do you have video, Shirley? Are you incognito tonight?
Well, I'll turn on the camera. It's been a long day, and I'm going to turn off the camera because while I wave it around, you guys will all get seasick.
Not a problem.
Wayne and I met when I was 25, and he was 25. We were the same age. He was living must have been going to school at Yale. And I was living near in the Hartford, Connecticut area. And one of our good friends, Lance Boberl, owned a tropical fish store in his parents' basement. And so Lance got me involved in the fish world, and Wayne helped me understand, both of them helped me understand more about, the process of showing fish, and which I had never heard of, keeping fish. Wayne and I actually dated for a while we were in our mid-20s. Then he went one way and I moved to California. We've been hooked up again on Facebook for, I don't know, the last 10 years or so. And it has been wonderful to watch him. I want to watch him continue the loves of his life. And as all of you know, that would be the aquarium world and telling people about biology, telling people, being a mentor to folks. It has been wonderful for me to see all of the posts from his students and those of you that have been to conventions with him. I did a couple of, good sized fish shows, but when I moved to California, the fish didn't survive the trip. And one of the issues about aquarium keeping in California is about once a year we get one of these shakers that knocks about half the water out of the tank. I've
been down in California several times for some of the clubs down there, and The thing I find the funniest is most of them don't keep fish, but they want to join an aquarium society so they can keep the passion, but they can't keep fish because the electricity is too expensive and the water is too scarce. So I'm like, it's the most bizarre situation living down there, but you have some incredible aquarists. You go into like the PCCA, you've got some incredible aquarists in that organization.
Well, and I also couldn't find sources here in Northern California. When I was living in Connecticut, I would go to New York with Lance to the wholesalers, and I would be able to say, I want one of these and one of those and one of these. And anyway, thank you for having me. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you kindly, Shirley.
You bet.
Take care. All right, there he is. The other doctor I know. How are we doing, Ron? We can't hear Ron. Ron's going to do his entire memorial based on mime, all in hand motions.
Sure, I did it.
There you go.
I can't be
We're kind of excited about the whole mime thing.
Yeah, well, I'm not a good one. Wow, this is this is tough. Like someone said, I didn't sleep very well last night, but thank you very much for doing this. And it is very healing to see all these people in the chat. It's really
98 people watching right now, and this means 98 to 100 people right now currently are in the chat. But once the video goes up, it'll just stay up on my feed, and anybody can watch it at any time because a lot of people just couldn't on short notice chime in, right? So it'll stay up, and people can comment, and I want to leave all that so people can comment and share stories and stuff.
So as many of you know, Wayne goes way back in the hobby, way back, and he had a lot of interactions with my mentor who passed many years ago, George Barlow, at the very start of really the cichlid hobby. And some of those people are fortunately still with us and still in the chat, which is wonderful. And a lot of us know him from the conventions, but there's many other things that Wayne did. The amount of writing, there.
Volumes, yes.
That's just one, but the editing and the writing that he did for so many things over the years in the TFH and Cichlid News and just so many things. It's an enormous amount of effort and work. And there's other things behind the scenes that some may not know. I mean, I would describe him as an important part of the soul of the ACA.
Yes.
He had his passion for not only the fish, but the organization, and in particular things like the Guy Jordan Awards. He always wanted to encourage young researchers. And I remember at some of those board discussions, and people would ask, is this work likely to work out for a particular project? And Wayne was like, it doesn't really matter.
No, all encouragement.
Getting them going and helping them along their way, and maybe some of them stick. And I think some of those people are in the room now. And whether they even stick with cichlids, that's okay. They just move forward in their lives and their careers. And
well, were you there in the beginning when I shared my experiences with Wayne at the beginning in my infancy?
Yeah,
He was one that encouraged me. Like, I didn't go to secondary education right away. I really was not focused on school at all. I was a drummer. I didn't care about all that stuff. It was drums and girls. That's all it was at that time. But he was the one that really, really encouraged me to go to post-secondary. And I really didn't want to study minnows. So I kind of diverted my attention to something that was another love of mine, was plants. And I studied more botanical interests than I did ichthyological interests. But he was still there, always encouraging. It didn't matter what it was, be it plants, be it turtles, fish. He didn't care. As long as you explored your interest, he would support you.
And I'll tell you what many of you may not know is that extended even well beyond the students. And I am very grateful that Wayne wrote letters for me as a professor. And some of you may not know what that means. But for someone to write you a letter for tenure as a professor that's a big deal. And that had a big impact on my life. In books like this, there's photos, and some of you younger ones of you may not realize that there was a time before digital cameras.
Oh, I remember it well. How much it cost to make a fish presentation using slide film.
And Wayne used to take beautiful photos way back in the day. And I remember talking to him once as his eyesight, Wayne had a number of health things and his eyesight was getting worse. And he used to lament that it was harder to focus, you know, and
Yes.
when you're shooting film, you only get a few shots. And then I guess one of my other memories is another angle, being on a bus with Wayne, but in Brazil at a convention of ichthyologists and herpetologists. So he just touched so many people in so many ways. And so, yeah.
I think Wayne is he has the type of personality that he can become close friends with somebody while he stands in line at the deli or at a bank. You know, he has that personality. It doesn't matter. Whoever crosses his path, you become a friend for life of him.
Yes.
And he was always giving of himself. As I mentioned, you know, he never once rushes you. He will sit and chat with you as long as you want about anything, and he'll share his wonderful stories and knowledge with all of us. So
thank you very much, Chris. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Take care. I see some more people here. Now, I apologize. I've never done one of these before where I've had many, many guests coming. So as they pile up on the bottom, I only have an option. It says kick from studio. I sure hope that I'm not removing you entirely from the feed. By all means, that is definitely not my intention. But to try and keep enough of them active on the bottom of the screen to be able to make sure everybody gets a chance, I have to keep adding and removing people. So I apologize. If it is something that you do want to add, if you do have another little story you want to share, by all means, come back again, and I'll bring you into the feed. But I'm going to bring in the next couple. Now, the next couple have been very, very near and dear to Wayne for a long time. They're very, very dear friends of mine. I'm very, very thankful. And a little story is I've spoken in the PA area at many of the different clubs or Keystone Clashes and stuff. I spoke it several times over each year. And the last time I was there, this wonderful couple, I stayed with them for a few days. And the intention was that I was going to be doing an interview with Wayne, a video interview for my Legends of Aquatic, my Aquatic Masters series, as I've done with several others. And it was all set up, ready to go. And then he had some sort of an opportunity for an elective surgery, something that was coming up, and he couldn't have guests. And I've been wanting to do that interview since, and that's why we're doing the video today. Because there's so many stories about Wayne that need to be shared, and each one of you guys has a story that's worthy of hearing. So let's bring on the next guest, Alan and Karen. How are you guys holding up?
Good.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I did pass on to the as you and I had spoken, and they probably will be in contact with you for helping out down the road as they go through everything.
Yeah,
So,
we can make ourselves available whenever they need us.
okay.
I've known Wayne since '96. Karen's known him longer than I did.
Mhm.
And as everybody said, he was so giving.
Mhm.
He even gave me some fish to take back to England. And he'd only known me maybe 24 hours.
That's Wayne. Yeah. And they probably weren't just basic. They probably weren't. They were probably something exceptional because he might not be known as a master breeder, but the fish list that he has of some of the fish that he has bred, some of them have only been bred by like a small handful of people in the world. Hipparchus sinicus, Crinocycla marmorata, the Acarictes hecali. Like these are not fish that are commonly spawned by anybody. But Wayne did them all.
And we were lucky enough 6 years ago for him to attend our wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a special role. It was Karen's maid of honor.
And I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did a wonderful job.
Oh, he did.
I think you would have liked that joke.
But you will carry him forever, because I remember the unveiling of your tattoo.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, a lot of people, for some of the people that may not know, I printed it off. I didn't have a better picture, but this was just from the Instagram post. I think it was the ACA in Washington, D.C. or Maryland or something like that. I think it was 2011. And Wayne had been such a big part of my life for so long. I just thought, and I was doing a lot of tattooing at the time, nobody could guess, but I was kind of like, I need to do something more. And I know generally most people get kind of a memorial tattoo after somebody had passed, but I thought, that's not really appropriate for this situation. And so I wanted to get something done because I know he would appreciate it more doing it while he was around. So I did it in 2011. It was a long time ago. But I did it, and I got this big tattoo. It's a portrait about this big on my thigh of a portrait of Wade Leibel. And you guys were there. I unveiled it in full drag. My wife-to-be was actually there with me as well. She was a big counterpart. I remember having to hit up the Salvation Army or thrift store to find the most hideous dress that I could have because, I wasn't going to shave or do anything. But I found this red curly wig, and I wonder if she's in the audience, but Pam Chin and I always judged together during the judges. Alan, you were often a judge as well at an American Cyclist Association conference. There was about 10 to 12, 15 of us that were always there together. But I know that during the judging is also the same time that the Babes in the Cichlid Hobby auction's going on. And the three women, Carolyn, Pam, and Pam, they do such an amazing job. I know that Pam only has a limited amount of time to come and do the judging. So they give her classes. So I planned to be surrogate Pam Chin during the interim. So basically I had my wife on board to try and watch. As soon as Pam left to go and do judging, I ran up to the room, put on that horrible dress, put on my horrible bright curly red wig and my ACA hat, the chairman's hat from my dear friend Ken Georgeson, who was a chairman of the ACA at the years past, has since passed away as well. And I rushed down to the Babes auction, and I just walked up on stage because then only the Babes were allowed to auction, and I sure was no babe, so I had to dress the part, and they allowed me to do it. And then nobody at this point, other than my wife, even knew about it. And then I pulled Wayne up on stage and had him sit on stage and still had no idea. I think I auctioned another item or two off first, and then I unveiled it to him there. And you have to do it big. He's just the type of person that has to be big. You got to do some sort of big thing like that for him. He's so deserving of it, and I'll never forget those times and those memories of that. Do you have anything else that you want to share, Karen?
Well, Alan will have something to share. I just want to say, he was a founding member of the Lehigh Valley Aquarium Society back in 1990. So, he was active on the local club circuit as well, and helped start our club, which, I'm working on trying to restart again. We're very blessed to drive him around to various club functions and up to the NEC and
wherever he needed.
Yeah, chauffeured him anywhere he needed to go, and he was always very gracious. If he was able to, he would be a speaker at any club event that we asked him to be a speaker for. Alan, do you want to share the Jeff? I don't know if Jeff Rapps is part of the group tonight or not, but Alan has a story that Jeff shared with us.
We have 101 people in the chat right now, or 101 people that are watching. I apologize to the people in the chat. I'm not watching the chat. It's just me doing this by myself. So I can't. I'm just trying to hold it together. It's trying to stay focused on what's at hand. I'm not. So if people are saying things to me, I apologize. I will go and watch it afterwards and view all the comments and stuff. So go ahead, Alan.
Jeff Rapps and Wayne himself told of the story when Wayne visited Tangled Up in Cichlids, and Jeff had it, and that having gone round all the various tanks, Wayne rested against a tub tank, and the fish that was occupant there swam up and bit his arse, bit his bum, took a chunk out of his ass.
That's a good story.
And the rest of the story.
I can't remember all of it.
Oh, he had to buy the fish.
Oh, yeah, he had to buy the fish.
Well, it's been tainted. Of course you have to buy the fish. So I keep my phones going, the messages is going. There's my whole screen's all lit up. I have no idea what's going on. There's just stuff happening all around me.
Yeah.
I think it was a catfish, but
No, I thought it was a cichlid.
maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it been a big
It was a
cichlid
big
then.
cichlid, yeah.
Could have been the pike.
Like a dove
Oh,
eye
yeah.
or something.
Yeah, it could have been. But we'll have to ask Jeff Rapps later, I guess.
And for 4 years, I served on the ACA board along with Wayne, and he was determined to get the focus of the board onto fish and the youngsters. And
If you don't get the younger crowd involved,
Yeah,
your organization's in
started to
trouble.
filter through. I mean,
Yep.
the kids competitions at any of the conventions up to COVID hitting were an inspiration of Hans Discus and Wayne. And fortunately, we had foresight on the board to agree with it.
Well, he always every position he'd put forward always made sense, right? He was a hobbyist first and foremost, and an academic second. So everything that he did put forward always seemed to make sense.
That's quite right.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for sharing.
You're welcome.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Take care. I don't know where you are.
I'm here.
Take care, guys. No, see, Wayne, for the people that may not know, I find it hard to believe that you wouldn't know, but no, he was a fellow of the American Cichlid Association. You know, that is the highest honor that they can bestow on anybody. It's a very, very small group of people that just contribute and dedicate many, many years of their life to the advancement of cichlids and cichlid hobby and cichlid research. You know, he was the editor of their newsletter, the Bunt Marsh Bulletin, for many, many, many years, all through the pinnacle of all the heyday going through the 80s and 90s when fish was a huge, huge thing. He's been, like a couple of people have mentioned, his stint with TFH. He's been with TFH, I believe, for 25 plus years. He's been the editor of Cichlid News for many, many years. You know, and the other contributions, he was just constantly hard at work. So he never actually ever really retired. He was there for everybody all the time. Every one of his students, I guarantee if there's students that are in the chat right now or people that are watching this that were students of Wayne 25 years ago, if you reached out to him, he would help you with anything you want. That's just the type of person he was. So let's bring in somebody else. Mr. Ted, how you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are you, Chris?
I look like I just wake you.
No, I've never used this app before. This StreamYard, it's pretty cool, but I don't know if I'm the only one on deck or if there was a whole line. You described a whole line, so when you popped me in there, I was like, "Whoa, that's actually my turn." Well,
on my screen, it looks. The only thing that's different on my screen is because you can see the chat right now as well. Correct? Just to your right,
no.
You can see the chat. No. All the people that are typing.
Oh, now I can. Yes. Now.
Okay.
I clicked the right button. Okay.
The only thing that's different is below me. I have I have six boxes below, but I don't have anybody new that wants to come in. I'm assuming that the other three below are people that want to share another story, or four below. But if anybody wants to come on and share a story about Wayne, I encourage absolutely every single one of you guys to do that. I can post the link again, but Ted, your turn. Let's talk Wayne.
Okay. Well, but the message I wanted to give about Wayne really was kind of to enforce what you were talking about earlier, but sort of people talking about Wayne's impact on young aquarists and young people getting into the hobby, especially the cichlid hobby, and especially in the ACA. I consider myself to be one of that younger generation, believe it or not, because by the time I got into the American Cichlid Association in early 1991, I was that guy. I was that really young, very first time aquarist keeping cichlids, first event at a big national event.
What do you mean 91?
91.
How old are you, Ted?
I'll be 55 this year.
I'll be 51 this year. So don't go telling me you were that young guy.
Oh, but I was. Because at that event in my early 20s at that time, I didn't know anybody. The person who I knew the most at the ACA convention in Orlando, Florida, was one of the ICCs, was Charlie Grimes. And I hope it's 1,000 years from now we have this kind of thing with Charlie. Charlie, I hope you're in the room. But Charlie is going around introducing me to a whole lot of people who were really big names in the cichlid hobby. And I didn't know who the hell they were. I really didn't. But he introduced me to Wayne Leibel. And Wayne, at that moment, was extremely friendly, because one thing Wayne had the ability to do was to make every conversation you have with them about you. Getting him to talk about himself was next to impossible. Once you got him to open up and you kind of discover all these great experiences that he had, I probably learned more about Wayne Leibel from other people who knew Wayne than from Wayne himself. And that speaks an awful lot to how humble the man really, really was. So when I got started with the ACA in a more serious sense after, the early 2000s, I was encouraged by Phil Bennis, who recently passed, who was another tragedy for this hobby, and some other people to get involved with leadership of the ACA. And I was a pretty young guy even then for getting involved in the ACA. I had not been a really active member in the ACA for more than a few years before they asked me to run for the board and be a part of it. The amount of encouragement that I got from Wayne behind the scenes, phone calls from Wayne, emails from Wayne, really encouraging me to take on that role, take on that challenge and play a part, was huge for me. It really gave me a lot of self-confidence I really didn't have at the time. And Wayne continued to give me that kind of support and guidance for many, many years. And as our friendship grew, those conversations turned more into talking more about fish. And once I started to get less active in the ACA, there was no less access or communication from Wayne. Wayne, you're right. He was very, very dedicated to the ACA. But if you were not dedicated to the ACA, that didn't make a difference to Wayne. No. If you were interested in fish and you were a good friend of Wayne's, if the ACA wasn't for you, he wasn't going to hold that against you. And that's just the way he was. But and what Ron was saying about being in the at the board meetings and going through all the grants, that was always one of the funniest things, because Wayne and Ron were, at the time I was involved with the ACA, really the two ichthyology cichlid scientists who were really heavily involved with leadership of the ACA at the time. So we would get these grant proposals coming in, and we wouldn't read them because we didn't know how to read them, because we're not scientists. Actually, I have a science background. I could read them. But Wayne would go through all of them, and we would sit at the meetings and go, okay, this looks really interesting. Wayne, what do you think? Oh, that looks really cool. Wayne, what do you think? Because he would tell us more about what the science behind the actual project was going to be, but really all about supporting those young people and the young scientists that were getting involved with the work. But the story I wanted to tell about Wayne, I want to remind people about Wayne, because I wasn't the only person in the room. In 2006, at the Chicago Cichlid Association convention in Chicago, when Wayne put up what absolutely was one of the most classic and hilarious dinner speaker talks of all time, that was The Hunt for the Flower Horn by Heiko Blair. Okay, and Heiko, I hope you're in the room, because Heiko wasn't supposed to be at the ACA. And Wayne disappeared all day Saturday. He was gone. No one saw him all day, because he went up into his room and he tamed it down because Heiko was going to be there. Okay, and we all thought it was hilarious. And to this day, I've always wanted to hear or see the unedited edition. I really would love to see that, because as it was really, really funny, and at Heiko's expense. I can't imagine what it was like. And that was, think about it, that would be so unlike Wayne, to poke fun at somebody like that in a public sense, and to do it in that forum, and then feel so guilty about what he was going to do. That was so much like Wayne, to go and tame it down. So that's
I always have that. I've had that same. You've been a speaker as well as I. I always go to these situations, and I'm very crystal clear with the organization, because they generally, I get asked to be banquet speaker 99% of the time, and I'm like, I got other talks, but that's what they always want. They want that humor-based stuff, and I'm always crystal clear about exactly what they want. Do you want, tell me what style of talk you want. Tell me about your your age group and tell me stuff about your club, what you want, because I can make it adult, but I can also make it like a Shrek movie, a Disney movie where there's some adult humor, but like it's fine. So I just need to know what group we're dealing with here. And I've been caught once where the group wasn't really forthcoming, and it was a challenge because you can't take slides out once you're at that point, right? It's not like an old slide projector. You just take the one out. Once you're to that point, you kind of, just kind of dance around that and move along.
And this was, I don't know, did we use digital in 2000? Yeah, I guess we did use digital in 2006. 'Cause I had a presentation that was digital. But I mean, that's bringing it back to Wayne. That kind of really, to me, kind of personified the kind of person Wayne was. He had an extremely dry sense of humor. And when you're talking to him, just you and him, trust me, everybody, he can let you have it. He can talk about people just like anybody else can talk to people. He knows everybody. And don't believe that he didn't have a temper, because Wayne Leibel could get angry with people. He'd get frustrated. But he was the kind of person that wouldn't have let that affect him in his relationship with people over long term. And if he did do something that he felt he owed an apology for, he'd come find you, which was, I mean, this is a little thing, but one morning at an ACA convention early, he was pretty hungover. And I went over and said, "Hey, good morning, Wayne, how you doing?" And he kind of brushed me off. He came and found me like 2 hours later and said, "Hey, Ted, I'm so sorry. I wasn't feeling so good this morning." But that's Wayne. That's what we're all going to miss.
You and I were together and Rachel were up in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. Yeah, well, it was a couple years back. You were there for their annual show, or their biannual show. And we brought Wayne Leibel and we brought Charlie Grimes up for the first time and only time we ever had the Canadian Cichlid Association convention. And we had it in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And this is going back years and years and years ago. And I'll never forget Wayne Leibel, because Canadian beer is decidedly stronger. This is before all the microbrews and all that sort of stuff, just regular beer. Wayne Leibel, we got him so hammered, and he at the end of the night, he was raiding the fridge. Like, I don't remember who he was staying with, but it was a struggle. He was just hammered because he just couldn't handle the Canadian beer. But I still remember the show. The actual fish that won the show was a zebra pleco. Back in the day, in the early 90s, when the Shingu was open, you're bringing in full size wild caught adult zebra plecos, and that was the fish that won Best in Show. It was completely stone dead, and like plecos, they stick all their fins out when they're dead. But Charlie and Wayne having that battle back and forth about that's on you, that's on you. It was so funny. The Best in Show was a dead fish. Perfect for Charlie, though. Absolutely perfect for Charlie.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, my friend.
You're welcome.
It's nice to see you're doing well, Ted.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, my friends. Who else wants to come on board? We still have over 100 people that are sitting here watching. I've got some more people. Now, I'm going to click on some of these people here. They've been on already, but it's possible they have some more stories to share. I'm not sure. I didn't want to kick everybody out. Ron. You're back, Ron. You got something else?
Well, I got the mic to work again.
That's all he wanted to say. That's all he wanted to tell us.
I want to show you that even older people can learn things. And I don't think I have it. I just, when you look at the whole picture of all the things that Wayne was into, the hobby, he was chair of his department. That's a huge amount of stuff there. And the editing, if any of you who've ever done editing know the amount of work that takes. And dealing with, for Cichlid News, he deals with authors that don't speak English.
Yes.
They don't speak English. You have to change it into English. All this contributions that he significantly changed the shape of the cichlid hobby in the world. And boy, that's all I have to say. That's what he did.
Yep. And he took it all in stride. You look at all the monumental, even just writing, if you're a student and you're putting together one of your big papers, it's a monumental task. It's an absolute monumental task. And Wayne was dealing with all that while at school, editor of the Bunt Marsh Bulletin, writing articles, writing books, handling all this stuff, and he just took it all in stride, like nothing happening. It's all good.
Yeah.
And you never ever saw him mad. Like I know Ted, you talk about. I've seen him in those situations too, where he gets frustrated. But you know, when he's working on stuff, when he's working with stuff for the fishes, he's always smiling. Thank you, Ron. Take care. All right, the lovely Miss Whitney. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
You got to tell me some stories now. Come on, story time.
I just want to say, the first time I met Wayne, like I was, I'm great. I'm great.
Tell me your situations with Wayne. I've seen some of your posts on Facebook and stuff. Tell me your stories. That's what this is for. We're all sharing. We're all helping each other.
Hang on, I've got a delay here. Am I doing it right?
You're not that far to the east.
One of the funniest things was like when Rachel and I were getting ready to go to a convention in New Jersey, and we were trying to peer pressure him into going with us. Yeah. So I drove from Michigan to Pennsylvania. We were going to pick Wayne up on their way and just like whisk him away to a castle.
And he'd go. He'd have no problem with it.
He said no.
Well, because Karen and Alan are his ride. Karen and Alan drive him everywhere. That's what they do. They've done it for years. If Karen and Alan aren't going, they're not going. That's just what it is. How are you and Eric doing, though? You guys are doing good?
I've got quite a bit of feedback here going, so. No, Eric and I are great.
Somebody says you have to turn your volume off on YouTube. Just turn your volume off and just with this one. I don't know if that works. I don't know anything about that. I know how to do me. That's it. Did that work?
All right. Is that better?
Sounds good to me. Yeah.
All right. No, Eric and I are great. But what I did want to say was how much it meant, like Wayne's support for the babes over all the years.
Yeah.
It meant a lot. And he was just so humble about it. Like, I remember when I first came into the conventions and stuff, and I mean, I'm just like a baby compared to most of you guys.
Hey.
I mean, I've only been in for like 20 years, so like that's basically like an infant, right? But it was like at OCA 20, or no, not 2020, excuse me, their 20th anniversary of the OCA extravaganza. And he showed up and he was just, vibrant and lovely. And I asked him to sign my lanyard and he was like, why?
I was looking back at, I tried to avoid from Sunday until yesterday, or Sunday, honestly, till today, I've been somewhat avoiding social media almost entirely. I want to see stuff, but I also want to just deal with it on my own, and just the outpouring of love and emotion from everybody. It's okay. It's okay, Brittany. Like we're all in that exact same boat. And this is exactly what the purpose of this is for.
Yeah.
But,
it was a hard one. It was really hard.
I looked back at that exact OCA, and I have the pictures of us sitting late at night playing Cards Against Humanity with Wayne. Late at night, where the security guard had to kick us out because we were being too rowdy.
Yeah.
All these crazies being kicked out at the OCA.
My very first convention was in 2009, and I don't know if I met Wayne until like 2011, but I just remember being very starstruck.
Your first convention was 2009. That was Cincinnati.
I know.
And you and Shelby were there together.
Yep.
I remember your flip flop with the bottle opener. That's not the same one.
It's not the same one. I had to buy a new pair because I accidentally left him at a hotel at a convention.
Well, thank you for sharing, Whitney. Thank you. Take care. You and Eric, take care of yourselves.
Thank you.
Cheers. All right. We got some other people here wanting to come on board. We've got some people that have known him for a long time. let's bring in another dear friend of his, all the way from Portland, Mr. Joe. How you doing, my friend? You
Doing
okay?
well. A little awkward here. I'm balancing the phone on my foot. You know, I went to my first ACA in '95, and I was, sorry, you're gonna hear a cat in the background, so, or two. And Wayne struck me as someone who, you know, like Whitney said, I was starstruck by seeing Wayne and Paul and Ross Sokoloff, all these people for the first time that I read their writings. And these guys are great. But Wayne was like a normal human. He was just someone who was never going to point to himself and say, hey, I'm the expert, or I know all of this stuff. He was just a really approachable person. And I really, today, I mean, that may have been rare then, but also today it seems like it's really rare. You know, you have people who are going to point to themselves and, hey, I'm the expert of this and that. And he had all the credentials and he had all the experience. I loved his writings. I mean, to me, there's really, especially for things that I was interested in, you know, tropical cichlids, or I am interested in, there was nobody out there who could write like that. And that really inspired me. You know, my writings, I don't think ever could have or could compare to what he produced.
But he was able to produce from the academic level, and I think this is a real strong point that was really a test to his character, is he was able to take that scientific stuff, knowing full well that most average aquarists wouldn't want to read a monograph of a new genus or anything like that. He was able to take that information and bring it down to the level that normal aquarists like you and I could really just eat up. And he presented it in a way that it excited us.
Yeah, he really did. And I mean, even today, I'll go back and, like, I was trying to unlock the key to spawning Chaetobranchus lavescens.
Yeah.
And it just, I gave up. But I was playing with the temperature. I was like reading his papers on Acarictus heculi, and I was playing with the lighting, and I was doing all these things. And
hatching brine shrimp nonstop. Hatching brine shrimp absolutely nonstop. Because they're a filter feeder, aren't they?
Tablespoons of eggs, hatching 2 tablespoons of eggs a day for them. It was crazy, and nothing happened. Ultimately, in the end, every time I walk in the room, they all ran and hide. I mean, it wasn't even. So I assumed that they're fish that. I was actually even tempted at one point to ship them off to Wayne this last winter, but that did not happen. I think Wayne also. So that was in '95. '96, I remember, I think in '96 or '97, I saw him at a Sacramento event called Lake Aquaria. And again, he was just super approachable. If we had a question about fish, we'd say, hey, Wayne, could you help us out? It was never Dr. Leibel or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And
just Wayne.
Just Wayne. And he would say, I think we were asking about a trichometric catfish. And he goes, oh, kangaroo. Just sort of sung it out. And, you know, because that's what we all speculated it was. At the now gone Capitol Aquarium. I think that, and also just behind the scenes, he introduced me to Pat Chafalo, whom I heard about or read about. And Pat, of course, went on to help me moderate, or now he leads the group for South American cichlids and West African cichlids on Facebook. And I just, you know, again, these are people who, you know, I do consider like myself a youngster too, Chris. I think you and I are the same age. I'm 50.
Yeah.
It's just.
But you and I, you know, like the thing that you made a point earlier is like I spent my younger years kind of in music and stuff, and when I started doing the music, I met a lot of big stars, and they all had that attitude, like you say, you know, until you got to know them, until they kind of felt like you were kind of on the same level as them, or at least that you were in that area, then they accepted you. But like you say, I still remember my very first ACA, and like I can literally go to this convention and I can meet these people that wrote these books that I stay late. I just study and peruse till the book is worn out. The Ad Konings, the Paul Loisels, the Wayne Leibels, you know, any of these pioneers, these people that we've grown up and loved. I could read those things. I could actually meet these people in person. And when you meet someone like Wayne, it's like, you know, it's like your crazy uncle.
It is, but
He's welcoming. He loves you. He just wants to hang out with you and chat.
Yeah, but even at that, I still feel like the querist who wrote, that's sort of something that's really disappearing in from the hobby.
Mm-hmm.
And Wayne was really special in that way, and he wrote really well.
Do you know why Aquarius stopped writing?
Huh?
Do you want to know why Aquarius stopped writing?
Because of the internet, because of YouTube.
No, because they had kids.
Well,
I used to write all the time. I had 4 daughters. I'm like, I don't have time to do anything.
Yeah, I stopped writing when I got really big into my job, and I started getting promoted upward. And I said,
Yep.
I'm hitting the keyboard so many times during the day that hitting the keyboard again at night is just going to.
Well, it's not a matter. It's also a matter of being creative. You have to have that spark and that creativity, and you have to sit down and I've got a whole. You when you did your writing, when you did a lot of the stuff with the Club Snail and stuff, which was loved by many. When you guys did that, you just didn't just sit down and start writing. You had something that came to you, and it was like that, and all of a sudden you just put pen to paper, and it all came out of you quick, right?
Well, yeah, and working for a fish store really gave a lot of ideas for that, because you have a lot of interaction with people who know a lot about fish. But
people like Wayne, like we look at the Club Snail, and 90% of the people that are in this chat may not even know what Club Snail was, but it was kind of an alternative fanzine or magazine, aquarium society type thing, but it was laced with all sorts of adult humor, and it was loved by everybody that read it because they took it with the meaning that it had. It was just having fun about fish.
Well, a lot of that was really inspired by what some of the people like Chuck Davis and Jenny Eckstein did many years before. So I think there'll be another round of it. Someone will create another seed of it. I just, the thing about writing to me though is what Wayne did as far as that goes. I feel like I really would love to see someone be able to take that on. I don't think anyone can, because Wayne truly was a one of a kind in that regard. And maybe there will be eventually, but I just don't see it.
You're a dear friend of both of ours, Rusty. I was having a conversation with Rusty this week, and Rusty was one that was, he says, Biggs, you got to go and do a video on Wayne. And as I said at the beginning, I can't. Yeah. I could, but I can't. Wayne needs more than that. I can't just put together a video and share my stories with Wayne, because he touched everybody.
Yeah. I remembered another Wayne story. It's kind of a little, I don't know, I guess it's a little racy, but I remember that we had the fish club in Portland had a convention, and we're in this smaller town called Canby. It was south of Portland. And we basically took over this little, like a Motel 6 style hotel. It was probably the only hotel in town. And we took it over. I mean, we were running around with open containers across down all the balconies and everything. And typically, if I was there at the time, I don't do that anymore. But
is this the parking lot where I see the videos on Facebook of a guy with a Darth Vader mask playing bagpipes on a unicycle about Portland? I see that guy. Is this the same type of hotel?
Yeah, he was later. That was I'm talking old school Portland here. But we were really loud, and I knew Wayne's room was right next to ours, and we were just unabashedly loud. And finally, we provoked him, and we stirred him out of his rest. He's on Eastern time, and we're on Pacific time, so we had a 3-hour deficit or difference. And he opens the door wide open, and he goes, "Hey, shut the," and I don't even know what it was. "Shut the heck up," or whatever. Can't you see I'm trying to sleep? But the only thing he's wearing is a little tiny pair of purple briefs. And I mean, he was nothing else. And he was wearing his glasses too. But that was it. And then he slams the door, and we're all like bowling over laughing, and then quiet it down. But
the purple briefs part, is that the part is that factual, or is that just the image that you've put into your mind?
No, that happened. I mean, Steve Lundblad was there with me, and he could vouch for this. This happened.
Eric would have been there. I'm guessing Norm may have been there.
I don't know if Eric was there or not. Norm was there, but I don't know where he was at the moment. I just know Steve and I were standing there with red Solo cups in hand in front of Wayne's door to see what we could get, see how we could provoke him. And sure enough, he did. And he pleased us all. But he really went out of his way to show that he was one of us.
Mm-hmm.
And,
He was. He was a hobbyist first and foremost, always, and an academic second. But his level of academics, like, he was at the highest level. He contributed. He did every aspect of that. But he was a hobbyist first and foremost, and I think that really rings true when we talk about some of the fish that he's worked with. I'm sure Wayne Leibel has bred a lot of the bread and butter south of, and honed his skills with that. But like some of the fish that he's bred that we've seen the articles and stuff about, these are fish that literally only a small handful in the world have bred these fish in captivity.
I know that there's a fish I recently obtained from Karen Haas, who talked earlier, Carolina isonectarina. And for some of you guys that are following me on Facebook, I've been trying to convert my fish room into more of a fish gallery where I want to just sort of watch the fish and not spend so much time trying to breed the fish. But this fish, I guess, was descended from Wayne's stock. Wayne and Oliver Lucanus wrote an article in 2013 on this fish. Appeared in Cichlid News. I never kept the issue because that convention, the 2013 convention, was my last. I had some bad memories from it. I haven't been back to a convention since. It's no fault of the convention organizers at all. They were.
We'll see you we won't see you this year, but we'll see you next year, I'm sure.
I don't know. I mean, we'll see. Hopefully the year after.
Yeah.
We'll find out. But the article was on heroin. It's a nectarina. But anyway, I have some of those fish, and I think they're, Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, they're descended from Wayne's stock. And I was planning to actually send them away. I was planning actually to get rid of them.
What species was it?
Now I'm like, okay, I think I better hang on to these before they enter the commercial channels and see if I can at least breed them and share some fry around.
But that also has a personal touch to it. Like I acquired just by random chance. I was at my local wholesaler, and at the time when an individual walked in with a bucket of fish, people, buckets. And he walked in and he had a whole bucket full of like full-grown Steatocrinus casuarius, the common buffalo head, a very common species in the trade, West African riverine cichlid. But when he brought these in, all of a sudden I started hearing the story about them and where they were from. And those are direct descendants, offspring from my friend that I mentioned at the beginning, Hugh Rodriguez. And those ones that Hugh got were direct descendants of mine from the very, very late 70s, early 80s, when they were just kind of starting hitting the scene and they were real challenging to keep. I now have a tank of them, a 75-gallon out in the room, and I have 160-gallon that's sitting here in front of me on the floor that I'm building a nice big riverine background to it and wet dry filter to house them. And these are just buffalo heads. Everybody says, well, why wouldn't you keep something different or rare or cool? No, these fish have a personal story to me, just like something that you're mentioning. Like that was just as a fish that you enjoyed, a fish that you're passionate about, but maybe it's waning, but because of no pun intended, but now the situation's changed and you might just want to keep them and set them up and just enjoy them.
Yeah, Wayne did that for a number of fishes for me, like the Mesonauta species. I would have never done that if Wayne not have written the article on BP.
Yep.
And just other fishes like that. And Wayne's adventures in the late 80s, the one particular trip that I think Dory mentioned earlier about going to Peru and how people were messing with him in the Cayman and log. I heard about someone else who was on that trip or one of those trips, and Wayne actually sat in front of the boat. They're all getting in the boat and they're going to be ready to go upriver. And that Wayne sat in the front. He's all eager, and everyone, of course, is sitting in the way back. And then as soon as the boat starts up, all these Procolotus, please, again, someone correct me if I'm wrong here, just start jumping into the boat, bouncing off Wayne's head. And so he, at that point, positioned an oar in front of him to deflect the fish as they're going up. It's like it's Wayne learning by trial and error. There, he's like, "Oh, I'll be in front of the boat," and someone else in the back just say, "Okay, sure, go ahead." So,
Well, I'm glad you're doing well, Joe. It's nice to finally see you. As I mentioned at the very beginning of this talk, it's like, it's we've lost somebody that's near and dear to all of us. It was 100 people at a time this year, and they're all here for one reason, and it's to share these stories. And if anyone can take anything out of this, reach out to your friends, reach out to friends and family, use your iPhone, do FaceTime, anything. Check in on your friends. I'm glad to see you're doing well, Joe. I'd like to see you at a convention down the road.
Days since learning about this, no, I mean seriously about losing Wayne.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant like learning how to use the YouTube or something.
No. This is trying to balance it on the end of my foot hasn't been much fun either, but that's okay.
It adds a personal touch.
Yeah. There you go. It's not smell-o-vision though, so be thankful.
Well, thank you, my friend. Thank you for sharing. All right. Let's bring somebody else on board. How you doing, Josh? I'm sorry for the delay. There's been lots of people that have come on board, and there's still 4 or 5 people keep adding on. Every time I share the link, all of a sudden there's a surge of people, and some stay out and wait, and some don't. Why are you in the dark? Why are you all somber and in the dark?
The light's behind me. Whatever. You surprised me like you did Ted. So, yeah, it's been a rough couple days since I heard about this. And, I've had a couple different friends pass on recently, actually. And, just like you're saying, every time it happens, I think about it. It's like, I haven't talked to that person in a couple weeks, sometimes a couple months. And I always say I got to do better and get in touch with my friends and keep in touch with them better. And I never do. And then the next one hits me and it's terrible. But it's really something we all got to do is keep in touch with our friends. Yep. But I've got 2 Wayne stories for you. I kind of grew up as a hobbyist reading his articles in TFH. I also want to say he wrote in FAMA for a while too. And one of the things I always remember about him is I'm one of the editors for TFH now, and we have a kind of cardinal rule about long stretches of nomenclature and science in there. Nobody really wants to read that Istanbul used to be all that.
Nerd talk. Nerd talk.
It's 300 words in Latin. Nobody cares. Wayne used to give us 3,000 words in Latin in his articles. And the thing is, he made it so understandable and approachable that reading this was like reading a treasure hunt as to how the heck did this fish ever get to be Echerichthys heckley? You actually wanted to know. He dumbed it down, I guess you would say, and made it very, very approachable in this way that only Wayne could. Am I frozen up right now? Because either that or Chris is sitting very, very still. Did I freeze? I think I froze. I'm not sure. I'm going to assume I'm not froze. The other story I have for him, he kind of swore me to secrecy on this, but I don't think it applies anymore, unfortunately. Wayne was incredibly curious about every aspect of cichlids and fish and everything else. And when the electric blue Acara first came out, he was really, really curious what this fish was. And he wound up ordering a half dozen of these fish from me on the condition that I couldn't tell anybody that he had ordered these, just because he wanted to check them out and see what they were, if they were a hybrid, and just to kind of appreciate them as a cool fish.
Or
And-
my internet died on me or something like that. I had to run upstairs. Everything just froze on me, and I'm seeing everybody says, "You were fine. Everyone heard you." And I'm just really thankful that it kept rolling. I thought, if I have to start all over again, it's going to be painful.
I'm just glad it was you and not me, because I was talking for like 2 minutes before I thought.
I live in the absolute middle of nowhere, and I have about a 40-foot tower on the top of my house with a little dish, and it has to be line of sight. And that company wants to charge me an additional $800 because the trees are leafing out now, and they don't think it's going to be enough. So I've
And if a
ordered
bird
that
flies by.
fancy, what's that new internet, Starlink, Elon Musk or whatever it is, and I'm in the beta test area. So literally it's upstairs sitting on the floor ready to go. But the problem is all my kids, we're in full lockdown, so all my kids are home during the day for school, and they need internet for school. So I can't shut the internet off to install the new internet. So you see if it works.
They're asking if you're drinking vinegar ales.
No, sorry. I'm drinking my normal. I drink iced tea and Jack Daniels. It's my normal. Vinegar ales.
That was the theory.
It's cloudy. Sure, okay.
Yeah.
So I only saw heard a portion of your story. Did you tell two of the stories? Because I didn't hear them. I'll have to watch them. I apologize, Josh. I'll rewatch them. I'm thankful that the internet didn't kick us off.
Me too.
But I'm glad you're doing well, my friend.
Hanging
it's been a tough time for all of us.
Yeah.
The whole point of this is that everybody, we're sharing all these things because this man touched us in so many ways. He was always giving of himself, and we're here for each other. And like you said, Josh, at the beginning, reach out, FaceTime, talk to your friends, talk to your fish friends. None of us have been to a fish convention in over a year. Tell me you're not jonesing to go to a fish convention. Well, those 25 people that you see at a fish convention, send them a text and say, hey, let's get together on Saturday for an hour. Let's have a Zoom thing. Everybody have a drink. Be 7, 8 o'clock at night. I don't care if you drink or Pepsi or whatever you want. Get together with some of your friends, check in, make sure everybody's doing okay. That's the best we can do right now, right?
It is, and it's so important, especially right now.
Yeah. Well, you take care, Josh. We'll see you soon. Are you heading out anywhere? Are you going to any conventions? Have you anything kind of tentatively booked?
I've had a couple virtual ones here or there. I hate virtual ones. I
can't do them.
I'm way too chipmunk for it. Yeah. I'm way too ADHD for them, and I can't do virtual ones.
I don't know if my ADHD could challenge your ADHD, but I would be full butter sandwich, white glass of milk ADHD as a kid.
I think, the thing with the cat with the peanut butter toast on its back, if they stuck us together with a level of ADHD, we wind up just spinning and creating perpetual energy.
Well, take care, my friend. Thank you for sharing. Now I see some friends that they've been coming back, so I'm going to just assume that they have more things to add because I've removed them and then they've come back. So if I add you to the stream and you don't have anything, I apologize. It's just me learning the aspects of technology. I see a lot more people have come into the chat recently. I see Jeff. If anybody wants to come on board and share, by all means, all you have to do is literally follow the link that I'm putting in the chat right now. Literally highlight that link and you will pop up here in the bottom, and then we can bring you up here and you can share with all of us a beautiful Wayne story. So, Shirley, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Oh, do you have some more stories for us, Shirley?
The evil camera. I did have a Wayne story that I thought of. You were talking about Wayne being not only a professional, but also a hobbyist.
Yes.
So this goes back to the mid 70s. Wayne and I spent a weekend with a couple of other friends on Cape Cod. Beautiful little house in one of those areas that the family couldn't sell the house to anybody else because it would become national seashore once they finished owning it.
It'd be reclaimed. Yeah.
And it was my birthday. The fellow we were staying with brought lobsters. And so my first thought was, well, I wonder if Wayne eats lobster. Being Jewish, it is certainly not kosher. What I did figure out was that he was the one of us that knew best how to prepare lobster and knew the best how to eat lobster. So, we had that under control.
Well, I believe Wayne was adopted. He was raised Jewish, but I don't believe he was Jewish. I don't know the logistics of how that works. I don't mean to sound offensive to anybody. It's not my intention.
It's one of those things. In those days, when asked, he said he was Jewish.
Yeah.
So you're right. His blood lineage was not.
I believe his blood lineage was Cajun, hence the need to play the Zydeco style music.
Absolutely. So shortly after this time, he was, I think he was still at Yale, doing work on his PhD. And I went to his apartment one day. We got together for dinner or something. And much to my surprise, I spent hours every week making sure all of my fish tanks were clean, making sure that the filters were clean, making sure the water was the right pH, all of those things that, well, I had 300 gallons worth of fish in,
starter tank.
Different tanks. What?
Starter tank.
Starter tanks, absolutely. Well, 300 gallons over, a dozen tanks. And plecostomus were what I really enjoy. You talked about that dead rainbow earlier.
I've been asked to be the convention the convention banquet speaker at the catfish convention this year. And I go, I love catfish. I love all fish. I love nature and everything. But I'm like, catfish is not something that I, really is excites me. And I'm like, I'm not a catfish guy. And they go, yes. And I go, that it's basically going to be an entire hour of me bashing catfish. They go, yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm your guy.
Well, the thing that amazed me when we got to Wayne's place was we went into his fish room. And here there were, racks of tanks, and they were all the color of the wall behind you.
Yeah. I've gone through that brown phase myself. This is the green phase, but I've gone through what I've referred to as the brown phase. And every fish that I had in my old fish room at my old house, and like you said, 300 gallons, my old fish room was 3,800 gallons.
Wow. Okay.
The biggest tank was 750. It's not a my fish room is bigger than yours. Nobody cares. But I still remember my room was fully automated, automatic water changes, and it was a necessity, not because I wanted to. It was a necessity for me to be able to do it because of the job that I had at the time. But I remember every single fish that I had at one point in time was either undescribed or brown. Everything.
Right. Well, I am sure that Wayne did not lie to me when he told me there were fish in these tanks.
The algae covered the glass.
I am not sure that I saw a fish the entire time we were looking at his tanks. He would go over and say, oh, look at this, Latin name that I don't remember, or here is a Latin name that I don't remember. And all I saw was green water. I am sure there must have been fish there.
But some of the absolute best aquarists, I remember one of the original guys that was the founder of our local aquarium society, Mr. Gord Orlico. I remember going to see his fish room. He would go away for work. He was I can't remember his position, but he wore a suit and tie every day for work. And he would fly away. I think it was human resources, and he'd fly back with a box of fish. And his wife would send out these phone calls because there was no text. There was none of that stuff then. He would phone, her wife would phone all of us and say, Gord's arriving at about 6:30 tonight and he has a box of fish. Click. And that was it. All of us had to converge on his place. And it was there's 27 bags. Everybody takes something, go ahead, because we know that if you're successful, we're all going to share amongst ourselves. But all of his tanks, he would be wearing a suit and tie, doing water changes, and there was no pails. He did it on the floor, hose onto the floor because the slope of the floor would just take it to the drain. And all of his tanks, you could barely see through the glass, and all of them had what I called the magical mulm. And it would have 3 or 4 inches of mulm in the bottom of the tank, enough that adult fish could hide in it.
Absolutely.
And those people, he could breed anything. You give those type of people an aquarium, you literally give them a glass box and water and put fish in it, and they can make the magic happen.
Yep. And certainly Wayne was that. I couldn't keep my tanks like that because as I was, emptying them and refilling them, I always got a mouthful of water doing the whole starting the suction process.
I think we're all guilty of that.
Oh, yes. And as a parting comment, I will verify that at least in the mid 70s, yes, there were purple drawers.
Thank you, Shirley.
You bet. Take care. Thank you.
Take care. All right, we got some more people on board here. Kevin, are you still there? Kevin's tried coming back, and I keep.
Yeah, here I am.
I have to apologize. I'm not trying to kick anybody out.
Here I am.
Boxes fill up so fast on the bottom, and there's it's all the same people.
I don't know. I fell asleep there for a minute. Boy, I tell you what, you got some Ted Judy can bullshit the ears off a brass monkey.
Well, the new fish room is not going to have many tanks. The tank behind me is 160 gallon. It's the same footprint as a standard 180, but it's only I think it's only 22 or 21 tall or whatever it is. There's another one that's going to be exactly opposite, and then there's going to be a few smaller tanks. But I'm sure you're aware of what's happening in North America with lumber prices. I had a dear friend, Ray Quinnell, who's been in the chat.
Let me interrupt you for a minute, Chris. You got all them trees blocking the internet. In Jersey, we just cut them down. You make a fortune.
Well, there's lots of trees in Canada. They're just north of us. There's a whole country of them. We got lots. Where do you think you get all your wood from?
That's right.
It's not coming from Jersey.
You get your internet back, and you'll make a fortune on wood.
Nope. I have a dear friend of mine hooked me up, and I got 13 sheets of beautiful birch cabinet grade plywood in my garage. I probably shouldn't say that on the internet. We're probably going to get robbed tonight, but that's for building the next big tank. And the 750 gallon tank, that was just a punk tank. I don't even know what the size of this one's going to be. It's going to be 12 by 6 by 3.
Wow.
Just think of what we could put in that. We could put all sorts of magical South
American. We could put God's fish.
Wayne will be proud.
Yeah, Wayne would be very proud because we'll put God's fish in there, not them communist African cichlids.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because it's some of the original notes that I had at the beginning. It's we all got to be thankful. Any of us here in this that are watching this video that knew Wayne, or even if you just read one of his articles, his passion was New World cichlids, primarily South American stuff, and
primarily ugly fish.
Yeah, the brown fish.
The brown fish.
And a lot of people don't know is why. And if you go to Cichlid Room Companion and read the article, I think it was 1997, that Juan Miguel did with Wayne, and it's on there. It's for anybody who can see it. You don't have to join the site to be able to see that particular article. It's why did you only keep South American cichlids? And the reason was because they were in the book. The book that he had, that he memorized, was from 1960. And there was no Africans really in the book at all. I'm sure there were a few odds and ends like crebensis and things like that. I'm sure would have been in there. But he fell in love with all these South American stuff. And we should be thankful because...
Actually, talking with him over the years, and I kind of moved away from South Americans and was heavily into Central Americans. And the more I spoke with him, I got back more now into South American cichlids, especially Equidens and Geophagus.
Yeah.
Because A, I could have big fish that wouldn't kill each other, and B, it was just something different. It was just you didn't need a 700-gallon tank. Yep. That's one of the keys. And Wayne opened up a whole arena of thought on all the South American cichlids, especially the Acaras and the Geophagus, but Cadiobranchus and all that. We never would have really learned much about those fish if it wasn't for Wayne, and as everybody
credit, like Cadiobranchus, Flavescens, any of that group, they're planktonic, they're plankton feeders, they're filter feeders. These are insanely challenging fish to keep alive, and guaranteed almost when they arrive, doesn't matter how good your wholesaler is, how good your collector is, when they arrive, these fish are emaciated because you want them cleaned out before they ship. And these fish, they're like a whale. They need massive volumes of small food. So the fact that I know Joe has maintained those fish for at least a couple of years.
Yeah, I've had them in the past. They weren't easy.
Oh, they're challenging fish.
But we had a guy here in Jersey. John Raymond was his name. He was a wholesaler, and he brought a couple in from me. And what was amazing about them was that they were shipped in a half of a plastic ice cream container, and they came out looking like they just got out of the river. That's how good they look. I mean, full finish, no ammonia burn, no to trailers, everything. It was unbelievable. But I would have never have even thought about that fish if I didn't read Wayne's article.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and Wayne and I would always have conversations about the whole Green Terror complex. And I did a program called The Tale of Two Terrors. And it was a comparison of Adenocara rivulatus and Adenocara stausbergi. And at that time, we was just breaking out where rivulatus was back to being rivulatus and being the real Green Terror, and stausbergi was its own, was what we called the Peruvian Green Terror. And Jeff Raps was the one who coined the phrases that the rivulatus was the Ecuadorian Green Terror and the stausbergi was the Peruvian Green Terror. But I asked Wayne for some information on that as I was doing my program, and not only did he converse with me, but he sent me his whole article on it from Cichlid News. And because I said, Jesus, Wayne, that was a couple of years ago. I don't know if I can find that magazine. He said, I'll send you the article. And 10 minutes later, I had the whole thing. I had the article, and then I would go back to him and say, Wayne, let's get the timeline straight here. Because, I remember when they first came in the United States in the 1970s, because Chuck Davis bought the first one I ever saw in 1976. And it was a red-tailed Equidens with that time Equidens rivulatus, and it was a showstopper. But I also wanted to find out when the fish came into Europe at that time, and also when stausbergi came in. There was all that controversy back in the old days, the gold psalms and the red psalms and this and that. To this day, to me, Equidens Adenocara rivulatus is the Green Terror, and so is stausbergi, in my opinion. And you see so many people today will say, no, that's not the true Green Terror is stausbergi. No, Green Terror is a trade name.
I think it's funny. The thing I've always thought is funny is, and let's be truthful. There's no other species on our entire planet, and I'm going to say this before, I'm going to give the disclaimer before I even say it, to no offense to anybody that's a scientist in any way. Remember, my background is that as well. But there's no other species on our planet that gives a shit about naming everything and putting it in order.
Correct.
I didn't mean to curse, but it's true. But humans want to find that logical order. You, a long-term aquarist such as myself, you remember back in, what was it, 82 or 83, when Cullender released that revision of Cyclosoma. It obliterated all the fish that we held dear.
Let me tell you something, Chris. I spent 6 years learning all them names, and then all the fish I kept were named after sandwiches. That's
and the names are all over the place. And as well as I do, their names are going to change multiple times after that, right?
Oh, yeah. It gets crazy after a while. But Wayne was so helpful in putting that program together for me. And I would run the timeline by him. I would run, species types and whatnot. And I have to say, without him, I don't think I could have put that program together.
Yeah.
And
he would spend that time with you. He would help you in any way he could.
Oh, it's funny because we would always, I don't know if Dory Carlo's still on, but in the 80s, we were the traveling Wilburys of the fish hobby. Don Danko can attest to that. Some other old time aquarists.
Don keeps telling me that he's connected, and he's not. Don was the only person out of this entire group. Sorry, Don, I'm not trying to throw you under the bus here, but Don has used StreamYards. He told me he's used StreamYards. Don's not here. Don's not on deck sort of thing or anything. Don's in the chat. He says fourth connection or more, but he's still not there. Just follow the link, Don. Just click on the link that I posted there,
If it wasn't for Dory, I wouldn't even be on this thing with you. But we used to, we used to. I don't know anything about technology.
Yeah, I'm in
I'm
the same boat. Honestly, when I started, I was presented of doing. I was badgered to doing YouTube for about a year and a half before I actually started doing it. And the reason I started doing it was honestly for a very single purpose. It's you go and travel to a fish club, like I spoke at your club.
Mhm.
I've never been back to your club. Hopefully, I'll get invited again. Maybe I don't know.
Well, you will if we can. If we ever be able to have meetings again.
Yeah,
Yes, you
but
will.
like you go to a club and you speak, and you meet so many amazing people.
Mhm.
Like to me, I've spoken to a lot of clubs, but speaking at your particular club was pretty intimidating. There's a lot of history there. There's a lot of really, really well-known names and stuff. That was a very intimidating talk.
Well,
And I had a great time, and the people that were my hosts were just over the top amazing. But
yeah, well, we try to take care of our people when they come to visit us because we're hoping they'll come back again.
YouTube gave me that way of continuing that conversation. Because how else am I ever going to talk to these people again? You know what I mean? You're on to the next club, you're on to the next club, you're on to the next club. It's a way of continuing that conversation and having that, extending that thing. The only thing the real challenge is if people that follow me on my channel know the challenges I'm faced with, but like everybody knows me as a fish and plant guy, and that's great. And that's my main interest. But like people don't get it when I tell them, you live where you live, you have access to almost everything. And even though the pandemic has hit, I know you've had restrictions, but people don't get where I live. Restrictions means no airlines. There's no planes flying here. That means no access to anything,
Well,
at all.
I think all the wholesalers and retailers can state that it's been very difficult to get fish, no matter where you
crazy.
are. It was it just becomes more of a challenge. On the herp side, it's almost impossible to get any reptiles. Reptiles are much worse than fish.
The only reptiles that I have, now you're probably the only girl in our group besides yourself, but we're doing this for Wayne. The only reptiles that I have currently is I have some baby red-eye crocodile skinks.
Cool.
And I have a half a dozen tokay geckos. And I know everybody goes, oh, they're super common. Yeah, but they were recently listed on CITES Appendix 1. And I think
know why.
No, but they've been harvesting like crazy out of the wild. But like it is such a near and dear species to me. I have it tattooed on my arm. I've had it for 20 some years. So I have them. And whether people think it's cool or rare or new, we don't care. And that's the part of the thing. It's part of the fun.
Well, I think when I really look back at, I've known Wayne since the late '70s, and we used to have a group of people that would go, like I would say, Dory and I and Chuck Davis would go to the ACA conventions, and Dory and I would perform. We get stewed to the Mickey. Dory would play the guitar and I would sing. We had a couple of songs that we made very famous. In fact, in 1979, at North Jersey's first try at an ACA convention, I ran the bar, and I was only 19 years old, and I paid $27 for a craft of orange juice, and Chuck was going to kill me. Thank God Eddie Ligotti stepped in, but we actually put two people back off the wagon. But anyway, we used to all get together. We would go to Ginny Eckstein's house, and Wayne would be there, Lee would be there. We would have Dr. Loisel with us, myself, Dory, Chuck, and we would sit there and talk fish for hours and hours and hours and hours, or we would be at a show and we would go out to eat afterwards and we would talk fish hours and hours and hours. And the great thing that I loved about Wayne was, and Paul is like this too. I don't know if a lot of people have had conversations with Paul, but I actually worked with Paul for 2 years in the basement at the sewage authority.
So did Chuck.
Yeah, well, Chuck hired him. And I worked for Chuck. So what happened was that Paul and I were in the basement. Paul had a 29-gallon tank, and I had a 150-gallon tank. So where our friggin' ideas about cichlids were. But you would talk to Wayne, and it was like talking to the guy next door. And Paul was like that too. Now I would sit and watch Paul and Wayne talk in an academic sense, and then you would come over. And all of a sudden, I would look at Wayne, and Wayne would start putting it all in English, and so would Paul. and like I'd be, what? What are you talking about? What is this? What are you talking? What's this gibberish? What is this? What are you, Latin? Latin's a dead language. Don't talk that. But
well, I expect, Kevin, I'm going to put you completely responsible. You're completely solely in charge of making sure that Paul is safe. We have lost Paul Dennis this year. We have lost Wayne Leibel. Like,
Wayne,
that's enough.
I got to tell you, Paul is very cautious with this whole thing. We're probably going to head up to Tony and Rose's this weekend, and I'm probably going to take Dr. Paul. So he calls, we talk occasionally. But Paul is very careful. He's not.
Paul's always been that way. He has that personality.
Yeah.
He's very detailed oriented. I could see that. I don't want to say I'm genuinely concerned. I don't think that's what it is. But in my conversations with people like Rusty and such, I'm like, I think, maybe I haven't really been involved as much as I should. But I think, any of us that are passionate about the cichlids and the American Cichlid Association, even though I'm a Canadian, I think we need to get involved right now. I think we need to help out. I'm losing two absolute icons in the past 8-9 months. It's very challenging.
Wayne's loss. I think the thing about Wayne's loss is that, and I think everybody feels the same way, is that it was just so sudden. And we knew he wasn't in the best of health, but we also knew that we didn't think he was in terrible shape. And to find out, I got a text from Tom Galuli on Sunday night at 11 o'clock. And, I was shocked because, again, as I said earlier, I was really looking forward to sharing these pictures of these aquidens I picked up with him so that I could, so we could have a conversation again. And then to find out that that he passed was just horrible, but I promise you I'll take care of Dr. Paul. I'm going to drop off, give somebody else a chance to talk there, Chris.
Take care,
Take
Kevin.
care, everybody.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Take care. How you doing, Miss Mary?
I've been better.
Yeah.
The past couple of weeks have been really bad.
So my goal
I buried my mom Mother's Day weekend, and now to find out this, I don't know. I got nothing.
So my goal is right now is just basically to make you snort. This is like the supreme challenge.
I'm snortless for the first time, you guys. I don't know. I can't. It's not a snorting occasion. The first time I met Wayne was actually at my first.
Hey, Mary.
What?
We're over here. Yeah, that's right. Look that way. There you go.
You brat. The first time I met Wayne was at my first GCCA convention, which was 2006, thanks to Keith.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's on here. I don't even know if he knows. And yeah, I'm the one that you guys always used to want me to do the awards at the banquet because I cannot pronounce fish names. Wayne was the most, he worked with me and he worked with me and he worked with me and I had it. Then we would eat and I'd get up there to do it. And all the training that he did with me went out the window and I quit.
No, that's the personal touch, and nobody thought any less of anything. Like, honestly, Latin is a dead language, so nobody cares. And I've traveled in organizations. There's very few people. Even some of the scientists don't know Latin. If they don't take Latin, they don't understand Latin. But because it's a dead language, the grammatical rules for Latin are fixed. They don't change. But you talk to a Loisel, you talk to a Leibel, you talk to any of these well-known fish people, and a lot of them. I'm not saying any of those individuals, but a lot of them. You go to clubs and people pronounce a name and like, what are they talking about? But where I'm coming from, we call it this, and we're saying the same thing. It is what it is. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. So, don't forget next year. You have something
there. I'm assuming I'll be there. I don't know.
better
The people in the chat have no idea what's happening. Mary's son, Nick, is getting married. Just so you know.
What? Mary's son who?
What did I say?
You said Nick.
Yeah, I've drank
Have
too
another,
many
have
vinegar
another
wheels.
drink, dude.
There you go.
All right, here. There, are you happy? Love you, man. I'll talk to you later.
Glad to see you smiling.
You did. I'm trying. If I don't mean it, I'm faking it. So
Love you, lady.
love you too. I'll talk to you later.
Take care.
Bye.
All right. There he is. How you holding up, Ted? We can't hear you, Ted. There we go. I think it's this. I think isn't this what the teen girls do? Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, you figure out your stuff, and I'll come back to you. Look at this. This is a legend of technology. Now you got to see if your sound works. No. Oh, Don, man. Got to figure out your sound. It's a legend of technology. Now you got to see if your sound works. All you're doing is replaying what I said. Oh, hey, Ted's gone. Ted's completely gone. Ted, you can come back. I didn't kick you out. You sound. I can't hear you, Don. It's a legend of technology. Now you got to see if your sound works. All you doing why are you just constantly replaying what I'm saying, Don? Oh, hey, Ted's gone. Ted's completely gone. Ted, you can come back. I didn't kick you out. You sound. I can't hear you, Don. It's a legend of technology. Now you got to see if your sound works. All you doing why are you just constantly replaying what I'm saying, Don? Well, Don's having some technical issues. I like poking fun at Don, but honestly, Don and his organization, the OCA, they do regular things with this, and they've done it. So he must be just having something a little bit more local. So, but I know Don has some stories. Now, I really encourage each and every one of you, honestly, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much for attending. If anybody has anything they want to contribute or add, you're welcome to come on now. We've still got a few more minutes. We can still do this. But I really encourage you, go to Wayne's Facebook page, post any pictures, post any stories, post any comments, share your memories, share them with all of us. He was an amazing man. He touched each and every one of us in the same sort of way or in different ways. He was an absolute gentleman. He was incredibly humble. He was a teacher to absolutely everybody. You sit down with Wayne Leibel, you're sitting down with family. You're sitting down with a friend. As I said it earlier, he was a passionate hobbyist first and foremost, and the academics came second. His contributions, they went worldwide. He's known worldwide. Now, the live stream right now, when we've streamed, we're almost at the 2-hour mark. But the live stream is in North American hours. It was 6 p.m. my time, 7 p.m. Eastern when we started. So it's not really conducive for bringing people from Europe and so forth. But they're going to watch this. They're going to share those memories and they're going to comment. And I encourage each and every one of them to share those photos and share those memories on Wayne's page for all of us to enjoy. And I do see that several of our friends have figured it out. So let's see if we can bring Ted back on here. We got the audio figured out, Ted? So I know if anybody's got stories to share, you will definitely be one of them. We can't hear you, Ted. I've got Ted Coletti again. There's second Ted. Ted sharing pictures. I don't even know how Ted does such things. Ted's a marvel of tech. If only Ted could figure out how to make his audio work. There's a picture of our dear friend. I don't even know how to do that. It's dating back to 2000. Well, Ted, I know that you have lots and lots of stories to share. Your audio's not working for you, so no fault of yourself. It is what it is. But you've shared some things already on his page. I encourage you to do some more. Any of those stories, we could all enjoy them together. Nice to see you doing well, my friend. Take care. And the lovely Karen.
Hi. I heard a lot of people talk about Wayne's love of South American cichlids, and that it seems like he's known for that, but he is actually also infamous for convict cichlids.
Yes, very true.
You know, and definitely got me hooked on convicts. You know, when I was just like 20 years old and, you know, getting into the hobby. I think a lot of people don't realize he's the one instrumental in discovering the marble convict, which came into the hobby about 25 years ago. I guess there was a spontaneous mutation that a wholesaler discovered and gave the fish to Wayne. And of course, Wayne, you know, they bred like crazy for Wayne, and he distributed them in the hobby. And I remember when I first had him 25 years ago or so, that they were known as Leibel's marble convicts. And they've really taken off since then. You know, they've got more orange in them, you know, than they did back then. And also Wayne has quite a few scientific papers involving convict cichlids, you know, back when they were in Cyclosoma and the genus.
But those are still New World, so it's okay.
Yeah, it's still New World, but
we don't want. We're not sharing them with the Dark Continent people. No, this is ours. We get to keep them here.
But it definitely goes along the lines of the underdog cichlids, you know, all the little brown fish. Well, he liked convicts too.
Well, thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
Take care.
Bye.
Well, my friends, I believe we're at the end. I don't have any more sitting in queue, but I thank each and every one of you that has contributed tonight via the chat. If you've shared a Wayne story or a memory, or all the people that came online and shared their stories and memories with us in video. I will spend some time going through all of this. I will read all the comments. And as I mentioned, this will stay up for everyone to enjoy. I think I'm not alone in this. We miss you, Wayne. Godspeed.